Okay, let's jump right into this explainer and absolutely shatter the myth of a 50-50 balanced universe. Today, we're unpacking Richard Koch's The 80-20 Principle, and I gotta tell you, I am genuinely thrilled to guide you through this material. Why? Because it completely rewrites the rulebook on productivity, business, and even your own personal happiness. For decades, we've basically been conditioned to think that all effort is created equal. You put in X amount of work, you get X amount of reward. But as we're gonna see, the real world, it just doesn't work like that at all.
Ask yourself honestly right now, do you feel totally overwhelmed, strapped for time, like you're constantly hustling, yet somehow your results just don't match the exhausting effort you're putting in? Look, we live in a culture that absolutely glorifies busyness. We equate long hours and constant action with success and value. But if you're stuck on a treadmill and not actually getting where you want to go, the problem isn't your work ethic. The problem is your strategy. It's a fundamental failure to understand how naturally unbalanced the world actually is.
And that brings us to the core concept here. Our universe is predictably lopsided. It's covered by this completely counterintuitive rule, where roughly 20% of causes or inputs or effort lead to a massive 80% of the results or rewards. This is the famous 80-20 principle, originally spotted by economist Vilfredo Pareto. Now, it's not some magical, rigid formula. It's not always exactly 80 and 20. Sometimes it's 70-30, or honestly even 99-1. The exact numbers don't matter nearly as much as the profound truth behind them. A tiny minority of inputs consistently yields the vast majority of outputs.
Just think about how this dynamic plays out. You've got this tiny sliver of effort on the input side, producing this absolute mountain of results on the output side. It means that 4/5 of your effort, the vast majority of what you do, is largely irrelevant. We are so hardwired to expect every cause to be equally significant, right? Like every customer is equally valuable, or every single hour we sit at our desk has the exact same impact. But reality proves that is a dangerous fallacy. Most of what happens just isn't that important and can frankly be ignored.
Section 1. The predictably unbalanced universe. Let's move to our first major concept and see how this predictably unbalanced reality is actually hard-coded into the fabric of our society. Because the evidence is literally everywhere. Take Sir Isaac Pitman, the guy who invented shorthand. He figured out that just 700 common words make up roughly 80% of our daily conversation. Or look at the entertainment industry. A minuscule 1.3% of movies pull in 80% of all box office revenues. That's almost a 99-1 rule right there. Out on the roads, just 20% of motorists cause 80% of the accidents. Whether we're talking about the words we speak, the movies that make bank, or the drivers causing crashes, the rule holds up. Very few things actually matter, but the ones that do matter immensely.
Section 2. Analysis versus 80-20 thinking. To harness this immense power, we need to know how to apply it, looking at two very distinct approaches.
Notice the huge contrast between these two mindsets. On one side, you have 80-20 analysis. This is highly quantitative. It's precise. It requires digging into the data to find exact ratios, like literally opening a spreadsheet to see exactly which clients generate your profit. But then on the other side, you have 80-20 thinking. This is a mental model. It's qualitative, it's a little fuzzy, and it relies heavily on your intuition and insight. Because, let's be real, we can't always pause our lives to run the numbers for every single decision. 80-20 thinking is about building that daily habit of spotting the few vital things and just getting totally comfortable ignoring the massive pile of trivial stuff.
Section 3. Redefining business strategy. Let's talk about executing an 80-20 business pivot, because this is where traditional economic theories completely fall flat.
This brings up a pretty shocking reality for most companies. A staggering 80% of your profits are almost certainly coming from just 20% of your products or customers. Classical economists love their theories of perfect competition and economic equilibrium, but those ideas simply do not map to real life. The living, breathing reality of business is incredibly unbalanced. If you were to sit down right now and study the output of your firm, you'd almost certainly find this highly lopsided distribution staring right back at you.
The implication here is absolutely massive. Think about it. If the lion's share of your money comes from a tiny fraction of your activity, that means 80% of your assets, your products, and your employees are only contributing a tiny sliver of your success. That is an incredible amount of waste. Your most powerful resources are basically being held back by a majority of highly ineffective ones. The 80-20 principle tells us that unless you've explicitly focused your strategy around that highly profitable minority, your current business strategy is fundamentally flawed. Doing too many things for too many people just doesn't work.
So, to execute a real 80-20 business pivot, you've got to follow these 3 steps.
First, identify that vital 20%. Break down your data and find those true profit drivers. Second, multiply and concentrate. You literally need to turn your company upside down and aggressively channel all your resources into that highly productive minority. And third, you have to ruthlessly prune the remaining trivial 80%. Cut the waste. Every successful enterprise ultimately draws its success from this one simple unifying rule. Do more of what works and eliminate what doesn't.
Section 4, the 80-20 time revolution. Now let's completely overturn conventional time wisdom and apply this directly to your personal productivity.
Consider this incredibly provocative idea from the book, There is no shortage of time. In fact, we are positively awash with it. I know, that sounds crazy, right? This time heresy directly attacks our modern addiction to busyness and that constant nagging guilt that you never have enough hours in the day. We've been taught that ambition requires constant hustle, but the truth, most of a person's truly significant achievements, the actual value they add to the world, happen in a tiny, tiny fraction of their time. Conventional time management is all about frantically trying to squeeze more tasks into your day. It's literally like trying to pour a whole liter of water into a tiny pint glass. It just results in a massive to-do list where 60 to 70% of the items are marked urgent, leading to way longer hours and a ton more guilt. But the 80-20 time heresy, it tells you to calm down and just act less. Time is actually abundant. If you were to simply double the time you spend on the top 20% of activities that actually yield results, you could theoretically work a 2-day week and still achieve 60% more than you are right now. Mind-blowing, right?
Section 5, curating the 80-20 life. Because ultimately, success is completely hollow if your life is lopsided, it's time to start curating our happiness.
We put up with this really sorry state of affairs where 4/5 of our time yields very little joy. The 80-20 principle asserts that 80% of your happiness is concentrated into just 20% of your life, which means we have a massive untapped opportunity to engineer a highly curated, deeply fulfilling life. Just like in business, the goal here is arbitrage. You want to move your resources, in this case your precious time and energy, away from areas of low happiness and redirect them toward areas of high yield and joy.
And we can apply this exact same logic to the people around us. If you were to make a chart of your top 20 personal relationships, you'd quickly realize something pretty shocking. 80% of the value, the joy, the support you get from relationships comes from just 20% of the people you know, usually those early, really close connections. Yet, we make the huge mistake of devoting way less than 80% of our attention to that vital top tier. We let a bunch of low-level social obligations hog the space that should be going to our true allies. You need to radically reallocate your time back to the vital few people who actually define who you are.
To actually engineer this happier life, you can follow 2 very straightforward steps. Step 1, identify your happiness islands and expand them as much as humanly possible. Do more of what makes you light up. But step 2, this is where the real magic happens. Identify the times you are least happy and aggressively reduce or avoid them entirely. The absolute best way to start being happier is simply to stop being unhappy. You have to aggressively cut off those low-value time sinks and those valleys of unhappiness that just drag you down.
As you look at your own predictably unbalanced life, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. You don't have to wait for permission to do this. You can start shedding the worthless skin of low-value activity right now, today. Taking back your time, your focus, and your freedom? Yeah, it takes courage, but the rewards are completely exponential. So ask yourself honestly today, which 80% of your life are you ready to ruthlessly eliminate?